And United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres warning that we are facing a global economic slowdown here at the World Economic Forum earlier today. Watch.
And we are looking into the eye of a Category 5 hurricane. Our world is plagued by a perfect storm on a number of fronts. Start with the short term, a global economic crisis. The outlook, as we all know, is bleak. Many parts of the world face recession, and the entire world faces a slowdown. And we see deepening inequalities and the rapidly unfolding cost of living crisis affecting women and girls the most. Supply chain disruptions and an energy crunch, soaring prices.
And Secretary General Antonio Guterres joins me right now, live in Davos. Great to see you, Secretary. Thank you for being here.
It's a great pleasure to be here again, and again with you.
And wonderful to be with you once again. You said we're looking at a Hurricane 5 that we're looking at when it comes to the global economy. Tell me more about that. What are you worried about specifically?
Well, I'm worried with the fact that we have a combination of things that are all interlocked and that have negative synergies. We have a war in Ukraine that is not near end. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has triggered, as you know, a dramatic impact not only for the suffering of the Ukrainian people, but for the global economy in general. Price of food, price of energy. At the same time, we are losing the battle with climate change, and we are having dramatic climate impacts around the world, with also huge economic consequences. And now we are witnessing an increase in inequalities, and all that combined, all that together, is creating a situation to the global economy in which we see that in some parts of the world we are with a clear recession perspective, others, as I mentioned, with a slowdown. But the situation is very different in countries like the European countries or the US and in the global south. I mean, interest rates are going up extremely in the global south. Countries are close to default. They have no resources because they couldn't print money like the US did, like Europe did during the COVID. They have no access to concessional funding because many of them are middle-income countries. Look at small island developing states, the Caribbean islands. They lived on tourism. The tourism has ended for 2 years. But as they are middle-income countries, they had no debt relief. They had no concessional funding. So we have in the global south a dramatic situation in which people are suffering, and we need to understand that, and we need to increase the mechanisms of global solidarity in today's world.
What can the UN do about it?
The UN is making a number of proposals. We did it in the G20, we did it in the G7, we did it in the meetings of the IMF and the World Bank. Our proposal is to have a global stimulus able to redress the economies, and the global stimulus able to address the challenges of the poorest in the world, and at the same time to create the funds that are necessary for a just transition in relation to climate change. We need to move from a dominance of fossil fuels to a dominance of renewables, but we need to do that in a just way.
Yeah.
We need to take into account the people that will be affected negatively in the areas that live with fossil fuel predominance, looking into training, looking into new jobs. The regions need to be invested. This transition needs to be well managed, not like the Rust Belt of the past, in which the transition from heavy industry in the United States, in Europe, and in other parts of the world was not properly managed.
Well, you mentioned the war on Ukraine, and the world is watching with complete horror what Russia has done here. At least 45 people are dead just today from a Russian attack on an apartment building in Dnipro, Ukraine, over the weekend. The White House condemning the missile strike yesterday, of course, calling it brutal and barbaric. But, Secretary General, you also condemned the attack. What else can the UN do to stop Russia from creating this death and destruction?
Well, the Security Council is paralyzed, as you know. And we have a serious problem because we have a Security Council that was created after the Second World War. and the world has changed. And the Security Council no longer represents today's world. And the veto power, as it is exercised, namely by a country that invades another country but has a veto power within the Security Council, makes the Security Council quite ineffective. But the UN is not only the Security Council. The General Assembly has been very clear in the condemnation of the Russian invasion, very clear in affirming the principle of the territorial integrity of the Ukraine that needs to be respected, the charter that needs to be respected, international law that needs to be respected. And on the other hand, if you look at humanitarian agencies, there is a huge work being done in Ukraine in support of the Ukrainian people. And I myself was very strongly involved in the mediation that was necessary for the Black Sea Grain Initiative. We have already more than 16 million tons of grains exported by the Ukraine in a war scenario, thanks to the mediation that the UN, together with Turkey, was able to do, guaranteeing the conditions for the world to be fed or better fed, and for the Ukraine to be able to export their own agricultural products.
Well, Secretary General, there are also questions around China, and at this meeting as well, talking about bad behavior on the global stage. We understand that China has been supportive of Russia. We know that there has been intellectual property theft of the West, surveillance programs. Is there anything that the UN can do to ensure that players, including China, play by the global rules of the road?
First of all, we have been very active engaging with China in relation to the need to have a positive influence in relation to Russia. Let's be clear, China has not provided weapons to Russia, which is an important thing. This was told to me by President Xi Jinping very clearly. But at the same time, the Human Rights High Commissioner has been very active on the human rights dimension, as it is said, with reports published and many other aspects. And we are convinced that it is absolutely essential to have a serious negotiation between Western countries and China on trade, on technology, to put on the table the problems that exist. If there are complaints that China is misusing rules or misbehaving in these or these aspects, this needs to be put seriously on the table, because today we face with climate, with the slowdown of the global economy, with the dramatic situation of the developing world, with the risks of a pandemic coming back, I think it is absolutely essential to have a serious negotiation on the table where everything is put very clearly between China and the Western world.
And certainly the climate situation is part of that, right? You've been very focused on climate change, the transition from fossil fuels to clean energy. Secretary General, do we believe that China will follow those promises, keep up those promises to transition to clean energy?
In relation to the climate change dimension, until now, China has been respecting the commitments China made. What we want is higher commitments from China. And we recognize that we need to have China more quickly reducing emissions than what China has promised. They promised that to reach the peak in 2030 and to have climate neutrality in 2060. And we want to anticipate those dates. And we very much believe that the cooperation here is essential. China has an industrial structure that is very largely reliant on fossil fuels, and China needs a number of technologies and a number of capacities in order to accelerate that transition. And this is the reason why I believe the cooperation that John Kerry established with Xie Zhenhua is extremely important. We need to make sure that China reduces emissions. This is vital for the world.
Yes.
But China needs some technological support, I wouldn't say financial, but technological support to be able to do it, because they have a much more old-fashioned industry in a number of areas and much more reliant on coal.
Okay. You laid it out perfectly. Secretary General, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you. Antonio Guterres this morning.